Hey everyone, I'm the Rift Mage, and today I'm going to share with you my drift tuning holy grail. This guide's going to be for new tuners who might be hearing all of this information for the very first time, or some veteran tuners who might just want a little refresher on some of the topics. I'm going to go over everything I know in this video, and I'll include a timestamp below so you can reuse this video as often as you need to. There's a ton to cover in today's video, so naturally this is going to be a long one, and there's going to be a ton of information being thrown at you. I'm going to do my best to move quick, so make sure you rewind and pause where you need to. After watching some of the other videos I've made, it's become apparent that I tend to ramble or like to hear myself talk, so I'm going to apologize for that ahead of time. If you're looking for a more action-packed, real-time tuning kind of video, I have a lot of them posted already, but this is not going to be one of those videos. If you click off here, I completely understand. Maybe consider throwing a like and subscribe before you go. That way you could help this content reach other people who might get some use out of it. I will be making short form content out of all of the subjects I'm going over in this video, so if that's more your style, then stay tuned. Alright, I've wasted enough of your time with all of that. Let's go get after it. Tire pressure controls the car's grip and also the feeling and characteristics of the car while you're driving it. I'm going to break this down both by the front and the rear tire pressure. Front tire pressure is going to control how much steering grip and how much steering response you feel. A higher front tire pressure is going to make for front tires that are less grippy. The tires will flex less, and this can increase understeer. It's going to make steering feel a little numb, or maybe even a gliding sensation. Lower front tire pressure will increase the grip of our front tires. The tires are going to flex a little bit more and bite to the road. It's going to slow down the steering feel. Could also cause you to have kind of a sticky feeling steering. Rear tire pressure is going to control how much the rear tires either fight you or assist you with drifting. A higher rear tire pressure is going to have less rear grip. It's going to be easier to spin the tires, and it's going to be easier to maintain a drift. The car will rotate easier, and this is more suited for a car that has less horsepower. A lower rear tire pressure is going to give you more grip and more traction to control where the rear end of the car is during a slide. This will have a tendency to straighten you out and can require a car that has more horsepower. Troubleshooting some common problems. If the car is kind of sticking and it doesn't want to rotate smooth, try increasing the rear tire pressure slightly. If the car has a tendency to understeer, try decreasing the front tire pressure. Left foot braking can also help you rotate if you feel this. More on that later. Gearing controls how fast our car can go, as well as how much torque at the wheels we have at any given RPM. On most cars, final drive is going to be the only parameter we really need to get into. It's only when we've established that there's a problem in between gears that we're going to adjust them individually. Final drive controls how aggressive the engine is going to feel by giving you more torque at the wheels the higher it goes. If we raise the final drive, we are shortening the gears. A gearbox with shorter gears is going to have more torque at the wheels, which is going to allow you to keep your tires spinning much easier. This is really great for a car with less horsepower. Too much of this can cause you to over-rev your engine and bounce off the rev limiter. A lower final drive is going to have less wheel torque. You're going to get higher speeds per gear. Your RPMs are going to climb slower in relation to a tighter gearing ratio. Be careful, because too low of a gearing will stop you from drifting. You're going to hit the throttle and the tires are not going to spin. This may require you to have a car that has more horsepower. Adjusting our individual gears is to make sure that when we upshift or downshift, that our engine RPM falls back into a range where we have the most torque available. If we take a look at a car's performance chart while we're in the upgrade area, we can see if we follow this pink band here that's labeled torque in foot-pounds, there's an area here where we have the most amount of torque before it starts to fall down again. This is the general area that we want to be within when we shift our car. That's going to make sure that when we apply throttle, it'll be easier to break traction and keep a drift going. If we shift and our RPM falls too low, we're going to lose torque at the wheels, and this is going to make it so then the drift will fail and the car is going to straighten back out. This is also called being within the car's power band. Torque isn't the only value that we look at here, though a linear torque curve will make sure that you have the most amount of power at the wheels at a given time. We're also concerned about the overlap with our horsepower. And if we take a look at our chart here again, we can see where our torque is the highest, there is a significant amount of horsepower that we're still losing. So anywhere that's in the middle of our torque curve or slightly to the right where we have overlap with our horsepower is going to be where we get the most amount of torque at our wheels. Troubleshooting some common problems with gearing. When you hit the throttle, your tires just don't want to spin. Your gearing ratio is probably too low. Raise your gearing a little bit and try again. The car starts to drift, but you can't sustain it. You've probably started the drift higher in the engine's RPM band, and then you ran out of headroom to keep the tires spinning. The closer you are to that rev limiter, the less you're going to have your tire spinning once you hit it. Try lengthening the gears, or try shifting into the next higher gear. You're constantly banging off the rev limiter. Even if you start at a lower RPM when you press the throttle, then your tires immediately break free and you're just banging off of the rev limiter. You probably have far too much torque available at the wheels in that gear. You're either in too low of a gear or your gearing is far too short. Try adjusting the final drive and lengthen your gears. A car's alignment is a confusing one. There's a lot of subtle changes that happen here and really throws a lot of people off. I'm going to do my best to explain this as clearly as I possibly can for you. Something to keep in mind for all of our tuning parameters, but especially the alignment parameters, there is no correction that is going to smoothen out bad driving, so keep that in mind before you start making changes. Camber controls a tire's grip amount as well as the car's ability to rotate. Front camber controls how much grip you have while countersteering. More negative front camber will increase front grip at steering lock or while turning. This will allow you to hold angles a little better. Less negative front camber will give you more control while going straight. This is going to result in having less grip while you're countersteering or in a corner. Rear camber is going to control how much the rear tires help or resist the drift. More rear tire negative camber is going to have less tire contact with the ground. This gives you less grip and a much easier time when trying to break traction. Less rear tire negative camber will give the tire more contact with the ground, increasing its grip. This is going to keep you straighter and might make it harder for you to initiate a drift. Troubleshooting some common problems with camber. If while you're drifting you're noticing your steering input really isn't controlling much, try adding more negative front camber if you have it. This is also something that is affected by caster, which we'll cover in a minute. Your car feels very unsteady while driving straight. You might have too much negative rear camber. Try lessening the negative amount. Your car oversteers or rotates way too much in a corner. You have too much rear negative camber. Try lessening the amount. Your car does not want to turn in or initiate a drift. You may not have enough negative rear camber. Try increasing the negative rear camber. Toe controls a tire's grip amount and ease of rotation. Any non-zero value here will cause tires to drag, slowing you down. Front toe controls how eager the car is to turn in. This is a super important parameter in drifting and is extremely noticeable. Toe in, also called negative toe, will give you a more aggressive turn in. This will make the car change directions faster and feel very eager to rotate. The car may oversteer very easy with too much. This can result in a very nervous feeling car. Toe out, also called positive toe, is going to make the car feel a lot more stable. It's going to relax the car, giving it a very predictable feel. The car will feel like it rotates less quickly. This can help tame down a car that has a lot of horsepower or just a car that feels very whippy. Rear toe is going to control the car's rear stability more than almost any other parameter. Rear toe in, or negative rear toe, is going to highly increase the car's rear end stability. It's going to make it much easier for you to hold an angle and will be a lot more forgiving. This makes for a car that feels very predictable. Rear toe out, or positive toe, will make the car rotate extremely easy. This can make the car transition very aggressively and makes the car respond extremely fast to rotation. This can make your car feel very unstable and can result in snap oversteering. It's uncommon to set a rear toe out value above 0. Troubleshooting common issues as a result of toe. Your car has a tendency to oversteer while maintaining a longer drift. lessen the amount of front toe out, possibly even add a tiny bit of front toe in. The car does not want to rotate or initiate. Try increasing the amount of front toe out. Car rotation feels lazy or almost resists wanting to start a drift. Try decreasing the amount of rear toe in. Car is constantly snap oversteering and is almost never stable. If rear toe out is a positive value, try setting it to 0 or add rear toe in. Caster controls how much the wheel wants to steer itself during a drift. The angle affects the car's self-steering, how much it wants to straighten out, and also dynamically affects the camber. More caster gives a very strong self-steering and centering feel when driving. It's going to make the steering wheel feel much heavier and make for a much more aggressive transition. A higher caster value will allow a wheel's camber to be affected more while countersteering. For example, on this car here, we have a caster of 6.5. We jumped out into the car right now so I can show you how the camber is affected by caster in real time. If you notice here on our front tires, we have both of our camber values showing almost perfectly -5. You need to be on an exactly flat surface for that number to be the same on both sides. So just take my word for it, we're close enough. If we start a drift to the right, we are going to counter steer with the steering wheel turning to the left. When our wheel starts to turn to the left, pay attention to our outside tire, which would be the left-hand tire. When our wheel reaches the position where we will generally be balancing the wheel slightly up and slightly down, you can see that our camber value is as close to 0 as we can get it, and that gives us the most grip as possible while in that corner. I've now set our car's caster to 1 degree, which is way too extreme, but I want to do that to demonstrate my point. In the same example that we gave earlier, where we would turn to the right, meaning we counter steer left, I'm going to put the steering wheel in the same position of counter steering, and you'll now notice that the outside tire is now at about -3.3 to around -2.7 to around -4. The camber is controlled much less now that the caster is such a low value. So not only does caster control the steering wheel and self-centering feel of the car, but it's also going to control how much front grip we have to steer during our drift. Less caster will make the car center less, as well as give you a much lighter steering wheel feel. And as I've just showed you, a lower caster amount will make camber change less drastically when counter steering, and this affects grip greatly. Troubleshooting common problems related to caster. The car is heavily over-rotating during transition. Your caster may be too high. Try backing it off 0.1 at a time. The steering wheel feels loose or the car feels sluggish to center. Your caster may be too low. Try increasing it 0.1 at a time. Your car is losing grip in a long sustained drift. Your caster may be too low and is not allowing the wheel's camber to maintain grip during the slide. Try adding 0.1 at a time. Your car is constantly pushing to straighten you out in a drift. Your caster may be too high. Try again decreasing it 0.1 at a time. Anti-roll bars, or sway bars as they're sometimes called, controls how much roll the actual chassis has when you corner. It also kind of controls where the grip goes on the car. Stiffening one end of a car generally causes it to lose grip in relation to the other end of the car. For drifting, we generally prefer a ratio that is a stiffer front sway bar to a softer rear sway bar. Your front sway bar controls how much grip the car has while drifting. A softer front sway bar will give the car a more planted feeling, increasing its grip. This increases the amount of weight transfer that you're going to feel while driving. Be careful though, because too soft can make the car feel lazy and sluggish. A stiffer front sway bar will cause the front tires to lose grip a little sooner. Your tires are going to bite into the ground a little bit less. This increases understeer and resists higher drifting angles. Your rear sway bar controls how freely the rear rotates and bites into the ground. A softer rear bar adds grip and increases traction. This helps stabilize the car and helps you maintain a smoother drift. This can make the car feel very predictable, but it can also hinder rotation and transition feel. A stiffer rear bar will give the rear tires less grip and they will have less traction. The car may rotate easier, but it'll also be easier to oversteer. This can make for a very nervous feeling car. Troubleshooting common problems related to your anti-roll bar. If your car feels kind of stiff and you can't really feel the weight shifting, try softening both the front and rear bar. Your car is rotating too easily and you're finding yourself oversteering often. Try stiffening the front bar while softening the rear bar. The car has good traction and will spin tires when you want it to, but it's still resisting the drift. Try stiffening the rear bar slightly. The car sometimes drifts really well, but oversteer seems to be slightly random and unpredictable. Try softening the rear bar in that case. Your car's springs control how much the car reacts to your input. It also controls how much weight transfer is allowed to happen. For drifting, a car generally likes a stiffer front spring and a softer rear spring, though usually only slightly. Your front spring stiffness determines how much the front end can take of your steering commands. Softer front springs are more forgiving and allow more weight transfer to happen. If a drift isn't going exactly right, this can make it easier to correct, though this can also make your car feel slightly lazy or slightly floaty. Stiffer front springs are going to give you a more aggressive feeling to your steering input. It'll also allow the car to turn in faster. Your rear spring stiffness determines how much the rear end will follow the front end. Softer rear springs will add stability and give the car a planted and predictable feeling. This can also cause the car to feel slightly lazy and floating if you go too far. Stiffer rear springs will cause the car to rotate faster and make for much more aggressive transitions. Ride height amplifies a car's weight transfer feel. Higher cars will generally have more leverage to flex. A lower front end typically gives a drift car a calm and predictable feeling, yet simultaneously allows it to still feel sharp and precise. A higher front end gives a car a softer feeling initiation. It also lets the front end bite down more during braking, which increases your front tire grip. A lower rear end plants the car and helps stabilize it. You'll get better traction at the expense of a less aggressive transition. A higher rear end may allow the car to rotate easier. It also lets the rear end bite down during high acceleration. There's more potential for higher angled drifts with a higher rear end. Something that's not a direct parameter that we can control in Forza as a result of ride height is called car rake. A car with positive rake has a front end that's lower than its rear end. This will give the car more rotational feel and a quicker turn-in response. A car with negative rake has a front end that's higher than the rear end. This makes the car feel a lot more stable and will make the car rotate less aggressive. This can also help tighten up a loose-feeling car. Troubleshooting common problems related to a car's springs and ride height. If your car reacts extremely quickly to an initiation or is kind of nervous and twitchy, your springs may be too stiff. Try slightly softening both the front and rear springs. If your car feels like a boat and is really sluggish to initiate, your springs are probably too soft. Try stiffening the front and rear springs. If a car is resisting you on initiation or just transitions very slowly with low angle, try increasing the car's positive rake. If your car is very unpredictable and oversteers constantly, try slightly increasing the car's negative rake. Damping, where springs determine how much the car can move. Damping determines how quickly you're allowed to move it. Rebound stiffness controls how quickly the suspension extends after compressing. This massively influences the car's ability to transition. A car with softer damping has suspension that will extend more quickly, whereas a car with stiffer damping has suspension that will extend a lot slower. With a softer rebound, the car can move more freely. It'll smoothen transitions, but can kind of delay how the car responds to you, making it feel sluggish. Whereas with stiffer rebound, the chassis movement is a lot more sharp. Be careful though, because this can cause a very nervous feeling car. Softer front rebound gives a much smoother steering feel. It's also a lot more forgiving when you're drifting. Stiffer front rebound will give a much faster steering response and make the car change directions more abruptly. Softer rear rebound adds stability. It also increases the car's natural tendency to want to hold angle, whereas a stiffer rear rebound will give the car a tendency to rotate more and transition a little faster. Bump stiffness controls how quickly the suspension compresses when weight is added. Softer bump stiffness means the suspension compresses easier. It also allows weight transfer to happen more gradually. Stiffer rebound causes the suspension to resist compression. Weight transfer generally happens a lot more abruptly like this. A car with softer front bump stiffness will typically have a smoother steering feel. It might also make your front tires feel slightly grippier. A car with a more stiff front bump stiffness may respond a little quicker and turn in much harder. A car with a softer rear bump stiffness can feel more planted in the rear end. This will typically add stability to the car. Whereas if the bump stiffness is stiffer in the rear, the car may rotate faster and more aggressively. Troubleshooting common problems related to your damping. If the car feels bouncy and unresponsive, your damping may be too soft. Try stiffening the rebound. If the car feels overly aggressive, or rotation seems to happen too quickly and is uncontrollable, your damping may be too stiff. Try softening the rebound. If your car is starting to feel twitchy and nervous, try softening the car's bump stiffness. If the car feels like it just doesn't want to react to you at all, try stiffening the bump stiffness. Aero controls how much grip the car's front or rear end has at speed. Keep in mind, this is something that has less effect the slower you're going. Front aero controls high speed steering grip. A higher value here gives more steering authority. It plants the front end to the ground for better control. This can cause oversteer. A lower value here has less steering authority at speed. You'll get less front grip and have a tendency to understeer more often. A car's aero in the rear will help control high speed stability. A higher value here will increase stability and traction. This may make it easier to hold longer drifts at a higher speed. This can also make the car have kind of a stuck feeling, making it slightly harder to initiate. Less aero in the rear will typically give a car less rear grip at a higher speed. This should make the car easier to rotate. Since the rear is more free, oversteering can be a lot more common here. This will make the car feel very nervous again. Troubleshooting common aero-related problems in a drift car. If the car is pushing wide in a fast corner, increase your front aero to increase grip. If your car is not rotating and feels sticky, try reducing the rear aero amount. Braking is not only something that helps slow down your car, but is something that'll help your car rotate more, as it typically will shift the weight forwards and allow your front tires to have more grip. Braking balance, or often referred to as the brake bias, is what we refer to by how much the front is braking versus how much the rear is braking. At 50%, the car is doing equal parts braking with front brakes and with rear brakes. The higher we go above 50%, the more the brake force is applied to the front. This allows for precise control of rotational angle when using left foot braking alongside your throttle when drifting. A value below 50% typically reduces front grip. It also pushes your car to rotate a lot more aggressively. A value under 50% will make it very easy to oversteer and spin out of control. Braking pressure is just how much force is applied with a given input on your brake pedal. Anything under 100% adds more forgiveness towards the driver for giving too much brake input and will allow the car to not overreact to a bad input. This gives you a more precise control of the car's rotation and allows you to tandem drift a lot more precisely. Braking pressure above 100% is multiplying the braking input that you're giving with the pedal. This will make it very easy to lock up your wheels, which significantly increases your understeer. I don't suggest going above 100% braking pressure unless there may be some other type of problem with your hardware. Troubleshooting common problems related to braking. Your car is over-rotating when left foot braking. Try increasing your braking bias. The car is not rotating when left foot braking. Or I keep hitting the leader in my tandem. Your bias may be too forward, which is overloading your front tires. Try lowering the bias slightly. Also, your braking pressure may be too high here. You may be locking up the wheels unintentionally. Try lowering the braking pressure. I keep locking up my wheels and skidding and understeering. Try lowering the braking pressure below 100%. My brake pedal doesn't seem to be doing enough. I have to smash on it with my foot. Try increasing the braking pressure here. Also, if you're on a wheel setup, make sure that it doesn't come with software where you can adjust how much brake input is from there. You might have that set incorrectly, causing you to press much harder than you should need to. A car's differential controls how much the wheels are forced to spin together. When turning, the car's inside tire wants to spin slower than the outside tire. If we lock them together, then it will resist this. Depending on the horsepower of the car, this can cause it to fight the drift and even push you to straighten out. A differential's acceleration parameter will control how violently throttle turns into sideways rotation. A higher value here, up to 100%, will control how locked together the rear tires are. If the rear tires are locked, this makes it extremely easy to initiate a drift. This adds a lot more aggression on throttle and can cause you to spin out much easier. A lower acceleration value means the tires can move at slightly different speeds. This adds a lot more predictability to the car and may stop the car from wanting to push you straight quite as easily. The deceleration value controls how stable or loose the car is when you're not on the gas. A higher value here means your tires have a tendency to remain locked while braking or off the throttle. This can push the car to straighten up and make maintaining a drift very difficult. A lower deceleration makes for a much more aggressive transition. Lifting off the throttle will now make the front end come around a lot more quickly. This adds a very responsive feel to the car. It could make holding angles a bit more difficult, as well as even causing some snap oversteering on transition. Well, we did it. That was a lot of talking, but we got through it. Hopefully, these explanations help you understand a little better what each one of these parameters do. Tuning is really difficult in a game like this. There's so many fine adjustments you can make to so many different parameters. Keeping straight what is actually affecting what gets really muddy really fast. I suggest you trying to tune no more than 1 to 2 variables at a time and only slightly to see how the cars change in response and feel. You can watch this guide a million times, but nothing will be worth more than you testing out different setups that match your driving style. Alright, that was a lot. I'm gonna go drift. You should go drift. Come back to tuning some cars. Please let me know what you got out of this guide. I struggled a lot in the beginning to find helpful and useful information that relates specifically for drifting, so I was hoping to put together a guide like this that'll help people be able to dial in a drift tune a lot easier. If you like this type of content, I know it's a little bit long and it's a lot of talking, but please give me some feedback in the comments. It would be greatly appreciated. If you stuck it out this long, I appreciate it, and I hope this helps you along in your drifting journey. I'm the Riff Mage. Take it easy.